Hello. So the last few weeks, I'm Will. I'm the host of the Book Geek. I did a video on Candela Obscura by Critical Role, and I want to say this. I didn't give it a glowing review, and I didn't give it a negative review. I just said it was too familiar, too handholdy, not willing to scare people, and there are better games that do that thing. There are so many better games that do that kind of genre. YouTube was flagging a lot of comments. Whoo! I pissed people off, and it was hilarious to witness. And a bit scary how far people. It was like the Rings of Power fanbase. I mean, there were threats in there to unalive me. There were people calling me ugly. There was people saying they're going to find my house, which is basically impossible because none of my real life is on the internet. Thank God. But it was so strange to witness, to the point I had to email Google over some of the comments because they were quite nasty, to say the least, on the site, including one that wanted to set me on fire, by the way. So, hi, and thank you for making me feel somewhat weirded out. And it's very interesting with modern tabletop gaming, D&D, Critical Role, and all of these other things. There seems to be this weird bubble of the fans, and I will clarify, this is quite a small bubble of the fans, but they're very easily upset. And if you say anything remotely, slightly negative, or don't agree with something, you are immediately considered a right-wing troll. And it's so strange to witness. Like, I was sitting there like, what am I doing? Oh, I gave it I gave it an average review. I mean, 5 out of 10. Average. But, and I say this, Matt Mercer and Critical Role have done good and bad, and the good has been bringing people into the hobby. I think that's a big thing, whether they're doing D&D or any other game. But the negatives have been quite bad as well. Some of the people they bring in are using the tabletop as a therapy session. And it's so strange watching these channels doing non-colonial and, respecting ancient cultures and how problematic is this? And it's like, it's a game. It's not real. And I do disagree with people using it as therapy because you're bringing your issues onto the tabletop with other people that don't want to hear them. That's a thing. There are other ways of doing that, and write it down, keep a journal, exercise those demons. Don't bring it, like, keep it out of work, keep your issues out of work, keep your issues off the tabletop. I know that sounds cold, but I think most normal players are like, I don't want, I've been there and it gets so uncomfortable and you're just like, oh, just no. I mean, the fan base is rabid. You've got people like Ginny, whatever her name is, who is this special wallflower who the remotest little bit of criticism causes her to melt down and block people. And in fairness, her fan base are probably worse than she is, because her fan base are predominantly, not all of them, but predominantly from my experience, a bunch of neckbeards. There is a website dedicated to her feet, by the way. There is a website dedicated to her feet, with people rating her feet and what they want to do and to her feet and what they want her feet to do to them. I've never wanted mind bleach so fast in my life. Like, it was like, these people are not good to be around, and I can see why, but maybe you need to sort out your own fans with someone criticizing you over something. I mean, seriously, your fan base is horrible. And Instructo Boy is prime example, and I have no personal problems with him. We actually have some frightening stuff in common, including quite major reconstructive surgery on our faces. Mine is less visible, but it's the reason I have an overbite, and there's a lot of plastic going on, like my eye socket and my bridge of my nose, and here is metal. I set off alarms. I've got metal collarbone as well. I've got pins. Pins here too. Well, I always wear something on this wrist because there's quite a noticeable scar that causes people to ask questions which are uncomfortable. But yeah, I mean, leading a cancel campaign over people who don't agree with you is fascinating. I think Critical Role and D&D have a problem, and I think a lot of it is people who are coming in that want to make it these bizarre little spaces where, I mean, there is a lot of bizarre stuff going on the internet, And blatant misandry is fascinating from some people, simping, and just sort of this weird, quite toxic environment, because it's always the very vocal small minority that tend to make the most noise on the internet, and I do believe people like that are not truly representative of the fan base. But then you have people who work for Hasbro and Wizards saying that people need to, people who are white, straight guys need to leave the hobby. Did he not look in a mirror? For anyone comes at me, I'm not actually white, I'm Hispanic. Just putting that one in the mix. I'm not actually white, I'm Hispanic. It's not my fault dad ran out of toner. Um, but, I mean, the whole, well, I look yellow on camera. What is going on with this light? And I'm in a weird mood anyway. So, jittery, caffeine. But I've seen this, and I mean, Critical Role, like, the fan base, D&D, and all of this stuff, it's this weird bubble of just toxic positivity, of people who don't want criticism, they just want their little figures with wheelchairs, and, like, it's tabletop. Why does everything have to be spoon-fed to you? Can you not make it up in your own head? Can you not create your own? Can you not create your own characters? And like imagination seems to be missing out of a lot of gaming and a lot of tabletop now. And I do have to. It was interesting a few years ago. There was a controversy because people found out Critical Role were not a bunch of friends meeting up to play D&D and filming it. It's a production. There is production people and crew and editors and sound guys, and it's all very professional and semi-scripted. And that's what people also forget, that things like online tabletop tends to be somewhat scripted, or if it's not scripted fully, there is key points and notes so people do know where things are going and how to react, because they do need that clippable moment to put into a short or TikTok or Instagram that will go semi-viral. And they need that, and that's nothing against them, because I think people expect very professional content, and a lot of people that watch Critical Role aren't actually interested in the game. They're just watching it like a fantasy TV show. Each their own. And I say this, I'm not a fan, but I'm also a fan. I'm in that weird middle ground where I have to be in the mood for it, and I love Vox Machina. I think Season 2 was amazing. I'm that weird fence-sitting guy. Oh, God. So, but you see this kind of very rabid fan base of people who are maybe not particularly stable, people with lots of bad takes, people with an inability to think outside of their box, and I think it's very easy to create a toxic space for everyone on both sides of this air quotes culture war thing, because it's very dangerous when it becomes a bubble. And that's like, you have a line and you have a bubble around each side. That's when it becomes dangerous, because if there is no room for someone that doesn't agree with you 110% or think exactly the same, there is a problem. And it's interesting because watching the fan base kind of not cannibalize itself, but definitely become very toxic, definitely become... I think the problem is you've got lots of very small people making a lot of noise, and it's because it's power play. They can flex their muscles, and if they've got enough followers online, they can lead a campaign against you. They can flex those muscles, they can make people come out the woodwork, they can do all of this stuff, but would they have the nerve to say it to your face? And this has been my experience with Rings of Power fans, the Tims, for example, or Dimmer and Dimmer, as I call them. You're getting, they did a hell of a lot behind a block, but would they say it to my face, or do they know what would happen to them if they said it to my face? Just putting that one out there. Like, do people not know the internet isn't real life and they need to touch grass? Or would they have the nerve to say what they're saying to your face? Or would it just be... It's so ridiculous. And this sort of... And I get it, everyone wants inclusivity, everyone wants this, but maybe not everything has to be for everyone. Maybe as a consumer, maybe not every product is for me, not every product is for you. Not everything has to be this accessibility, inclusive thing. Marketing works for certain demographics, and marketing towards certain demographics is how you make money. It's simple. And products that you like, other people aren't going to like, and products that they like, you're not going to like. Not everything has to be. You see it in video games. Oh, I love this game, but can we have a patch so we can play it in real-time combat rather than turn-based? No. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Oh, it's so confusing. It's an open world. Can we get the like? Not everything has to be for you. Simple. We have the right to criticize the media that we consume. I've made a whole channel out of it. Not everything has to be for you. Not everything has to be this bubble. And once companies start alienating long-time fans and start turning on them and calling them ifs and phobes for disagreeing with a tiny thing, or if you're called a right-wing reactionary for not liking a TV show or a game, and you're like, actually, I'm very middle ground, and I don't like, people make presumptions because you don't like something, and it's very strange. And this sort of war of words that's happening, and being called a fascist is a thing on the internet, which I find that hilarious because these people have no comprehension of what that word means. It's weird watching this go down and watching all of this stuff just happen, because it's very much splitting the fan base. And when I can basic rule set and a free website, you can play thousands of tabletop games and adventures and presets, legal and free, without needing to even register. It's strange, isn't it? But yeah, kind of a rabid fan base, and I think that's where the problems start, and then people just take it too seriously, and then it becomes a whole identity, and then it becomes this, and then it becomes that, and then they become a victim because they want to be a victim, and then there's a whole list of things that go down, and I do wonder what's next. And I don't think Hasbro and Wizards are in a good place. I don't think tabletop gaming is in a good place. I think alienating your audience is not a good idea, but trying to bring in the tourist is also not a good idea, because it ends up becoming a toxic cycle and it makes the space very toxic. That was a long-winded and somewhat confused ramble on Critical Role, D&D, and other tabletop gaming experiences, and my humble opinions about it. And your comments on that video were both amazing, wonderful, and downright terrifying. Seriously, people, get back on your meds. That's not healthy. So, I'll talk to you guys later.